need a motion to adopt the agenda, and we have addendums, so include that.
Okay, I'll make the motion that we adopt the agenda with the additions of addendum 5B7 and 5B8. And what about this broadband one? Oh, this is next meeting, okay.
Okay, so
Just those two amendments.
we'll add those, obviously under 5B, and it's what, 7 and
7 and 8, yeah.
One is Meet Us Week, and 8 is
55 plus 4 games.
55 plus games, seniors. 1, 2, 3, seniors. Games. Okay, all in favor? Motion is carried. Next item, scheduled delegation, and we have Mr. Christopher Robley attending Community Futures. Please step forward and turn your mic on when you talk.
There we go. Good? Okay. Thank you guys for giving me the time to speak today. Most of you know me, so I don't think I need to run through who I am and all that kind of stuff, because it just makes me sound too pompous. So, I'm here for two reasons. The first is, no, yeah, I already come across that way. I'm here for two reasons. The first is just tell you about Community Futures, what we've been up to. Give you kind of a brief about our loans or that kind of stuff. Any questions you have around it. And the second part is this business visitation proposal that I promised that I'd bring back. Tracy Shikawi from the High Prairie Chamber of Commerce was supposed to be here tonight. Don't know where she is. I've texted her and emailed her. But I can assure you that the High Prairie Chamber of Commerce is in full support, right, as well as a partner on the project. So the very first thing is Community Futures. We are not a government body. So I kind of start with that because lots of people think that we're an arm of the federal government. We're a private corporation. We get some of our operational funding from the federal government that we apply for every year. Well, we only have to apply now every 3 years since we're doing well. This year we've given out 11 loans. Of those loans, 5 of them have been local to High Prairie and area. About $250,000 is out the door. And we've done 368 contacts. Of those contacts, 220-ish are in your area. So that means 220 conversations with business owners or potential entrepreneurs. Our targets are 8 loans a year, $400,000 out the door, and 400 contacts. Took me a second there. We sit on the High Prairie Chamber of Commerce. We sit on Legislative Bank Economic Alliance. We sit on Slave Lake Chamber of Commerce. We sit on broadband, so the broadband stuff that's coming around, we're involved highly with all those kind of things. We've done successful contracts for the town and MD124 for advice on their municipal waste program. We've done 2 successful contracts for 3, I guess now, for the MD of Opportunity. We've done a feasibility study for them on modular home development. We've done a census for their area, so their entire municipality. We ran their census and coordinated that. And we also developed a grant strategy program for them as well, and given advice on how to implement and all that kind of good stuff. That's all on our corporate side. On our not-for-profit side, we've done strategic planning for the High Prairie School Division. We've done strategic planning for CRC, for FCSS, and a couple other locals too. So we do a lot of things that no one actually knows what we do or even who we are, right? One of the things my board wanted to talk to you about, is just so you guys are aware, to sit on Community Futures Board, you don't like if you're to sit on FCSS or like you sit on CRC, you guys as a municipality give money to those programs so that they run. Community Futures doesn't work that way. Any municipality that sits on our board doesn't actually give us any money. Community Futures and the board allow municipalities to sit on our board because it's good for the communities that there's a representative of the council and of the populace sitting on our board. You guys don't have a sitting member. Why that is, I don't know. If you're interested in having a sitting member, we have 3 positions left on our board. We have 11 current members. Our max is 15. So I guess we have 4 positions left, but 1 is filling up, so we really only have 3. We represented County Big Lakes, MD124, MD of Opportunity, Town of Slave Lake, And I think that's it. And then we have some reps out of Red Earth and that kind of stuff. We don't have Indigenous or Métis settlements sit on our board. Our boards are limited to 15, so they're kind of covered in all those areas. We partner with Alberta Business Links, Indian Investment Corporation, and the local bands and councils to get that kind of stuff done. So we run like youth camps in Sucker Creek and Driftbow every year. We run 2 of them. We're going to run a youth camp here in High Prairie also. We run them in Slave Lake and in Wabasca. So yeah, if you're interested, as a council, on having a member delegated to sit on community futures, 6 meetings a year plus an AGM. They happen at 10:30, and they happen September, October, November. We're not doing December because we didn't want to have one. January, February, March, and they have April, May off. June is the AGM. July and August off, and we start again. So it's not a huge time commitment. There is, however, if you decide to be a sitting member with Community Futures, you need to attend the meetings. If you miss 3 meetings in the year, the board can choose to strike your membership. And it's happened, right? Because we need people that actually come, right? And I do believe in that. If you're going to sit on the board, you should want to sit on the board. We also have what's called the Investment Review Committee. If you sit on the board as a new member, you're automatically part of the Investment Review Committee. It's something new that we put in so that I can fill that board too. What that is if you wanted to get a loan from Community Futures, you run what I call the gauntlet, which is running through all the steps that you would run through a chartered bank, plus a couple extra, because we don't have all the fancy gizmos and all that kind of stuff that chartered banks have. So we can't just plunk you into a system, be like, male, 25, no job, what does it say, right? We have to make all those decisions ourselves. And that comes to the Investment Review Committee. We have 8 people on that board right now. And 2 of them are councillors. The rest are just public members at large. They used to be councillors also. Dave Vanderwall is one of them. Randy Eamon is another one that's local. So that board decides the actual loans. So we do all the work. I decide whether or not it goes forward to the IRC. If you pay your application fee, you get to be seen by the IRC. That's one of our tenets is if you pay, that's fine. But normally I say, just save your $500 because I'm going to vote no. And if I'm going to vote no, there's definitely 4 others that are going to vote no too. So we kind of have that conversation before they even make it to the IRC. The IRC meetings can happen over the phone. They normally happen in person because people like to be there, but they're pretty open. And those happen at random. It's just if we get a stack of people that want to come, we kind of have an unwritten rule that we try to get our clients, or at least we used to before we were so busy, we try to get them through our system within 30 days. Right now it's 90. By the time you come to us and apply, it's about 90 days before we can ever host an IRC just because of the volume of clients. We see 2 new applications a week now. It used to be when I started about 1 every 2 weeks. So it's just, some of it's the economy for sure. The industry's, it's tough out there and people are getting laid off, and your choice then is POGI, right, which runs out, then welfare, which doesn't pay anything, or start a business, right? I would choose to start a business, right? And I run 2 local here too. So yeah, that's in the fastest way possible that I can talk Community Futures. Any questions? Michael.
What do your youth camps consist of?
So we design each youth camp. I gotta sit forward because I can hear the difference, eh? We design each youth camp specific to the areas we host them. So for example, the Sucker Creek and Driftbow youth camps, they're in partnership with actually Sucker Creek and Band Council, because we make it a community event on reserve. I grew up on Elizabeth Settlement, so I have lots of experience working with Métis and Indigenous, right? And if you want to have a successful event on reserve or on settlement, you make it a community event, right? So then that means not only can youth attend, their parents can attend. And it's, we have little breakout sessions. So we'll have the youth do, what we do right now with them is a lemonade stand, or we call it like a booster juice stand. We can't use the word booster juice, so a fruit smoothie stand, because I don't want to get sued. So we do a fruit smoothie stand, and we walk them through, should you be a sole proprietor? What is a sole proprietor? Should you be a limited company or corporation? How would you set up your cash flow sheet? What are the costs? How to figure, from start to end. We walk you through how to do a business plan and how to run a business. For the parents, we get into more of the details, reconciling 30, 60 day in Simply, depending on the questions they have, right? But lots of the time, it's funny, the questions that youth have are oftentimes the same questions that adults have, right? Should I be a sole proprietor or a limited company? Because I don't understand those. Is a question I get all the time, right? And it's a fair question because there's a lot of things to consider.
That was epic.
Yeah,
That was Trump?
That like, yeah, Trump's winning. Oh my God. I'm leaving. See you. So that's the Sucker Creek one in Wabasca. So we hosted one. I want to say October 28th. It was on the Saturday, Sunday. It was okay. We're going to host for them again. That one's in partnership with FCSS instead of being in partnership with the bands, because FCSS is the one that kind of does all those community-oriented events. So we do it in the outreach center there, and the schools actually bus their kids because they get credit for entrepreneurship learning up in Wabasca. So I'm the opportunity. So the kids get bused to the event, and they do 2 days in a row, and then they go home. And we have full seats. Like when we did it at Sucker Creek, we had 18 kids the first day, 18 kids the second day. So they don't leave. And when we did it in Drift Pile, we had, and Drift Pile was a bit strange. So we had about 8 youth and 11 or 12 adults the first day. Second day, we had 8 youth and 3 adults. So, I mean, that's fine, right? We hosted one in Slave Lake at the Community Futures office, and it was a kind of a one-on-one pre-registers thing when we had 4 youth take us up on that. So it's positive, right? If you can get I really believe if you can get a single youth interested in entrepreneurship or understand, I think that's a positive thing for the community. We also do, so Roland Mitchner and I can't ever think of the other one.
St. Francis of Assisi.
Thank you, yes. I was going to say the Catholic one. We do their comm courses. So we go in for 20 or 30 minutes and we talk about, what's credit? Why is credit important? How do you damage your credit? How do you keep your credit good? Because and most of you probably know that because most of you have kids. Youth I didn't get credit. You probably didn't understand what, taking loans out in the wrong way are going to do to you later on in life, right? And that it follows you around. That you can't just, I don't want to pay it and run away, right? It doesn't work that way. So we have those conversations in schools now too. Yeah, but the youth camps are really good. They do a really big one in the South, Community Futures. We all partner together and throw in some cash. And there's, on average, about 65 kids, that's Medicine Hat, that attend from all over Alberta. I think it's about a week long, so 7 or 8 days. And they teach leadership skills, they teach entrepreneurship skills, they do all kinds of breakout courses. It's a really neat program. Yeah, but we don't have anything like that up here, unfortunately.
Any other questions? Councillor Court.
So on the loans that are a yes, for example, is there an ongoing relationship with the people that have got those loans, and what's the success rate? Like, have you tracked that?
Yeah, so we do. We've only tracked that since I've joined Community Futures. Community Futures, as you probably all know, and you've never seen them before, so that tells you how well Community Futures was being run in the past, right? And our board was, 6 people. So now what we do, so of the loans we've given out since 2014, 2015 fiscal year, we've only had 1 that's gone bad. And that's out of 11, 22, 25, 27 loans, somewhere in there. About $600,000 in lending. Not a ton, right? Like when you take a look at the average chartered bank monthly, they're looking at making 2.5, 3.5 million monthly, right? So we're a drop in the bucket, but it's an important, right? That's somebody's life and somebody's business and feeds a family, and and lots of people are small entrepreneurs to begin with. So that's one of the really successful things. What was the other question? Sorry, just how successful we were. Or a follow-up, yeah.
And an ongoing relationship.
So one of the things that we found when I joined Community Futures was that the largest complaint from a borrower is that I borrow money and then I get 0 assistance after. Right? Here's your money, sink or swim. Is kind of the term that was used. So what Community Futures does now is written in our contracts is a clause that says at any point in time, Community Futures can audit your books. We can come and see your Simply accounting. We can just have a general conversation or request any information we want. Most people, and we've done this a couple times, really dislike that, right? But if we see that you've missed 2 loan payments, okay, so why are you missing your loan payments, right? Like, instead of us foreclosing on your house, which is something that we don't want to do anyways, why don't we sit down, take a look at your books? You're required to anyways, but let's have, it's an ask to begin with, right? Not a tell. So we ask, let's together sit down and take a look at something, and maybe, if you sit down with us, we'll give you interest only for 3 months instead of, pushing for closure tomorrow. So, and then,
Where's that relationship?
oh yeah, definitely, yeah. And then we do follow-ups. We only do them manually. I'd like to do them more often, but I'm short-staffed, right? Well, not short-staffed as in people are quitting, but as in we don't have money to staff people, because we're not for profit, right? So we do an annual follow-up with clients too, to see how they're doing, they have any questions, anything come up in the year, are you paying CRA, because please God, pay CRA. Those kind of questions, right? To just see, kind of benchmark where you are compared to where you've been, and help you with that transition to, more cash or less cash, depending on your situation, right?
Any other questions?
Chris, where do you guys get your funding from? I know you said a little bit that you're not government, so.
We aren't. Yeah, so we get our funding from Western Economic Diversification. We receive $396,000 a year. And then any deficiencies, so anything that we can't pay for, we have to make that up with contract revenue. Or we have to let people go. So in the past, we let people go. Now we make it up with contract revenue coming and talking to you guys, right? We've done some grant stuff for Calgary, some not-for-profits there. We do some consulting down that way too now. But that contract money, so that $396, is applied for. It used to be applied for on an annual basis because Community Futures just wasn't doing that well. Now we're on a 3-year continual term contract. So every 3 years, we now need to reapply for that funding. Makes it a lot easier. So our funding comes up 2017, so fiscal year 2017, 2018.
And out of that, is that just sort of your operating money, and then you can still give loans out of a different fund, right?
Yeah, so trying to think of how much I can say here.
Yeah.
Without saying, yeah, this is how much money we have. So that operational cash, because we're contracted by the federal government to provide services, to provide entrepreneur services, entrepreneur and economic development services, has to be used for operational costs only. And because the federal government are awesome, you have to net zero budget, which is just the worst possible way to run a budget, right? Which means that at the end of the year, all that $396 needs to be spent every single time, or they claw it back. So that makes budgeting pretty tough, right? And then on the loan side, we have what's called restricted and unrestricted cash. So back in the 1980s, the federal government gave Community Futures of Alberta $1 million. And that $1 million was then spread across a number of community futures. And we used that money to lend. We're restricted in the way we can lend, so we can only lend to Canadian citizens. We can only lend to residents of, full-time residents of Canada. Even if you are a Canadian citizen, you need to be living here. You need to be living here full-time. So like anybody on a PR, it's just, they can't borrow money from us. You have to be 18 or older. And that's about all the restrictions that WD put on that kind of stuff. But we can't use, for example, our loan money, so our portfolio money, to offset our operational costs. So if Community Futures can't pay staff, you might have millions of dollars, and we do have, we're not a small, when people not-for-profit, and I get this lots from bankers, when they meet with us, they're like, oh yeah, you're not-for-profit, and they're thinking, $300,000, $400,000. We have a lot to throw around if we really wanted to, but we still can't use that money to throw around in our operations account. People would be unemployed before we could do that, right? Or the board would go to jail. So people would be unemployed first. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions?
So yeah, I have the second part. We'll continue. So if you guys do, I'd like to hear just a letter that says yes or no, as to whether you guys would like to have a board delegated for a council. I need a letter that says, this board's been chosen, or this board member or councilor has been chosen to represent High Prairie on Community Futures Board, as well as a resume and all that kind of stuff from the chosen councilor. That's taken to our board, and it's treated like an application. So you apply to be on our board, you bring certain skill set and all that kind of stuff. With the councils, it's once you're accepted the first time, then you can just, you know, if you don't want to be on our board anymore, you can assign a new board member, and you don't have to go through that rigmarole. But the very first time, in order to get you under our DO and I insurance, which we have, you know, to limit the liability, right? So as long as you're not crashing into people and saying, I'm a board member on Community Futures, we cover you for most things. And I say these things because they've happened in Canada, which is the craziest thing ever.
Okay, we don't make decisions at this.
No, and that's fine, just
Okay,
for a
so
later
we'll
date.
come up to the next.
Yeah, absolutely, because you guys have
agenda.
your designing boards or whatever that's,
Yeah.
I should know
Okay.
those things.
I believe that you got enough information to do a agenda item.
I can send you a letter if you'd like. I could have my staff do that. Okay.
Okay. Terms of reference and the steps that you require, the requirements
Okay,
for
sure.
application.
Sorry, I just make a note because I won't remember otherwise.
Where the meetings held at.
So we alternate. We do one meeting a year in Wabasca, and then it goes High Prairie, Slave Lake, High Prairie, Slave Lake. And they're, if you're a counselor, you don't get paid travel. Sorry. But if you wanted to be on our board as not a counselor, then we'll pay for your travel costs, and we do feed you. So nothing else, you get a free lunch out of it. That's how our board members come for the lunch. It's really good because we use normal, you know, every different, like you guys do, we use different caterers and all that kind of stuff. We try to find the weirdest possible caterer so we can get something super different. Yeah. So step by step. And do you need a letter, like a letterhead, the whole works letter from us?
Even if it's just an email sent to the attention of the CAO or the reception, and then we can go from there.
Okay. I'll have that done for you next week. Okay. Everybody's good? We'll move on to the second part. Okay. So I talked with you guys about this last time. This is the business visitation program. So I presented this to the County of Big Lakes. The County of Big Lakes, to my knowledge, voted in favor. So they're going to be on board for this program as long as you guys are on board for this program. I'm going to walk you through the package. You guys probably have different page numbers than I do. I'm not exactly sure if that's how the packages are set up. I know I ran into this problem before with Town of Slave Lake, but
We have both numbers on ours.
okay,
Council package numbers and yours are still there too.
great. Okay, so we'll switch to page 4 in package.
In the package, okay, so that's
I'll just walk you through the package.
7 of ours.
page
Yeah,
7.
see, that's why.
Good with process.
Starting with processes, yeah. So what this is it's a face-to-face visit with the businesses in your community together. So Community Futures and the council. So it'll be the council, this council, and the council of County of Big Lakes will develop questions for input from business owners. So things like, and there's a question sheet in the back, an example of it. Questions like, how many employees do you have? Are you hiring more employees or are you firing employees? How's your business doing? Are you increasing or decreasing in revenue? Are you thinking about closing your doors and why? If there's something the council can do, what do you think they could do for you? What's your largest roadblock for starting a business or making money in High Prairie? What do you see as something that's a hole to fill or an opportunity in High Prairie for business? And those are just examples, right? Together we can come up with whatever you guys want to ask, right? In partnership with the County of Big Lakes. So like I said, we do one-to-one visits, so we're at the business visitation actions. We do initial contacts, which each of your businesses will develop a list of all the businesses in your community. Now you guys have business licenses, so, but I don't know if you have one for everyone that exists. You may or may not. That's a good way to find that out. The County of Big Lakes, for example, they don't have that. So that's important to know what businesses are in the area. And I still think it's important for the town of High Prairie because you service 20,000. You service that business community, right? So these businesses here service those businesses there and vice versa.
That's a good point, because there's a lot of businesses outside of our town boundaries that are still doing business.
Exactly, right? And then, so this, I want to be clear, but this isn't a leakage study, right? You guys done a leakage study and I read it. It was pretty good, right? Said there was leakage. But this isn't one of those. This is just to get the idea from the businesses as to how can council or what are they struggling with, and what are some possible solutions, right? So that when you guys do pass bylaws or make decisions, they can be as informed as possible, right? So we'll do face-to-face visits with each business that's in the community that we can find. Something that was also proposed from the County of Big Lakes councilors was that they would like to have a survey. So we won't do face-to-face with every person in town, but we will develop an online survey so that regular people could fill this out as well. And they'll be in their own little category of answers, right? Because you don't want it to skew the actual business answers. And that includes, stay-at-home businesses in the basement, not just the ones that are business licenses, but you hear a conversation that someone runs something out of their basement, and if someone's going to hear that, it's going to be Community Futures. We'll go follow up with those people. The timeline, we're going to do a number of sets of business visits so that you get an idea of. We'll divide it by your municipal region. So if we were to do a census for you, for example, we would divide your town into municipal areas. And those municipal areas will then dictate how we do the census. And that would be the same process for the business visitation program. So you can know in your south quadrant of Town of High Prairie what businesses are there and what's the average economic growth and what's the average earnings and how many people work in that area and so on and so forth, right? You'll get 4 of those over the course of a year. So this is a year project. And it's our hope by the end of all that we've reached everybody, right? Now with this being a partnership program, there's the chance that maybe we don't get to every single one. But if they've contacted us, they will be seen, right? But if we got to hunt people down, well, sometimes people don't want to be seen or answer questions. So right now for partnerships, we have, of course, ourselves. We have the Municipal County Big Lakes. We have the High Prairie Chamber of Commerce on board as well. Right now, the county is funding half the project. That's what they've approved. That's what they approved at the General Council. I think it's still got to go to budget from, what I've talked to them. But yeah, so that's where we're at. So we'll flip over to page 6, outcomes.
Just a question, is
Yep.
the chamber putting any money into this?
No, they're not.
Okay.
Yeah. Part of this project, so I guess I should mention that, it doesn't matter, I can mention that now. So this project will hire a part-time staff to work out of High Prairie. So it'll provide an employment opportunity for someone for a year as well, which, wasn't such a big deal before, but it's a bigger deal now than it ever was. That'll be managed by Community Futures. It'll be a staff of Community Futures, and we'll assume all the liability. There won't be any put on the town. All you guys would be is, we'd be the contractor for a project, and all the liability would rest with us. We have all kinds of, and it should be a concern. So the average municipality reports for FOIP, right? We report on FOIP and PIPA. So all of our policies and document retention strategies have to not only meet FOIP, but they also have to meet PIPA, which is the federal government equivalent of FOIP, except it's like FOIP on crack, right? It's just such a super complicated personal information document system. It's crazy. But so you can rest assured that the information we collect from these businesses will be treated, with the utmost respect. So the outcomes, which is probably the most important for you guys, just the raw data. You'll have access to it, of course. It'll be shared between you two. One of the things that you guys can opt for is to buy. We know of a number of programs that do specifically what we're looking for, or you can just have it in an Excel format to save costs. I don't really care which. Community Futures doesn't either. So you'll have the raw data. Some of the raw data would be the name of business, the contact person, the address, the phone number, and the nature of business. That information alone will give you an idea of who's out there, right? Other than just maybe you've missed someone in your business licenses, or they just do it in their home or something along those lines. For all other businesses, you're going to get that information, plus you're going to get the answer to the survey questions. You're also going to get an anecdotal report based on the responses from businesses, based on our experience through it all. So the needs, the issues, the recommendations. We're going to create a searchable database in Excel, so that if you're looking for businesses that are oil field based, or you want retail based, or you want home based, that will be the search function in the Excel. We're going to do some statistical validation and current anecdotal assumptions. So these are the kind of things that we did for the grant strategy and the census. And that's just ensuring that the information that's provided, there's some validity to all of it. So there'll be some data checking and all that kind of good stuff. We're going to identify some red flags for you. So in those first 4 sets, so if we have the first set and there's something that comes up over and over and over and over, you'll get a red flag for it right away, right? You don't have to wait till the end of the project to understand what people are talking about now. You're going to find some statistical information for regular trade routes and assumptions about them. So that means some of the questions that are involved is where do you shop, right? So, what are your favorite stores? Or, where do you go for this? Now we know lots of people go to Slave Lake. And it's a funny thing. If you talk to the counselors in Slave Lake, the people that shop, they don't shop in Slave Lake, they shop somewhere else. So then where do they shop? Because they're not shopping in Slave Lake. Are they shopping in High Prairie or are they shopping in Athabasca? So the understanding that is important, right, for those people that will provide it. This will also identify opportunities for future programs. One of the nice things, and this has been run in other areas by Community Futures, has been run all across Canada, is they normally run it for 2 years. So I'm only proposing 1 year for us because I'll just come back and pitch it to you guys again if you'd like it. They run it for 2 years to understand if there's a difference, right? So if you run it the first year and to see what's happening, then especially in these economic times, run it the second year to see if in 2017 it's improving, or 2018, I guess. It's improving and things are getting better, and where do we need to invest money in infrastructure costs and all that kind of stuff. So the total budget for this project is $35,000. Your portion is $17,500. That covers the Community Futures staff, the surveys, and the administration. That's it. It won't cover, any kind of special program to draw up the information. It won't cover any of the other kind of costs. Those will be above and beyond. But just the basic information is about $35,000 for staff time and administration. For Community Futures, and I've told this to my board and I'll tell it to you, this is a net zero project for us. We're not making any money on it. So of the $35,000, it goes completely to staffing, and then the surveys and curriculum, those kind of things. So we're not trying to, pocket $10K. It'll keep 2 people employed, 1 here and 1 in Slave Lake. So if you flip over to page 7, there's some purposes, some defined populations, some prepared questions, a draft survey, conducting surveys, schedule and organizations. This gives you an idea of the strategy, how we would go about it, right? It's pretty standard. The only thing that I think as a group, if there's 2 of you on board, that we really need to define the purpose, because there may be a different purpose between what the High Prairie Council wants to see versus the County Big Lakes Council, right? So have that common purpose as to why we're gathering this information, for what purpose. So the data gathering methods, I've talked about them already. The only thing that I think you guys would like to take a look at is page 10. I don't know what page that is for you guys.
Page 10 is page 13 for us, it's labeled page 10 anyway in your program.
Okay, good. So this is a sample questionnaire that we've developed that has been used. So this is a few pages long. As you can see, it's 4 pages long. And this is a sample one that's been done in Ensign and Hinton, as well as BC. So it asks things like your operations and your structure. So are you a limited company, sole proprietorship, corporation, that kind of stuff. What's your primary activities? It then goes on to labor force. How many people do you have? What's the salary for each person? From those salary answers, you can determine gross revenue. Right? So if they're paying people X amount of money, from that information, Community Futures can then determine a business's gross revenue. It's a pretty easy equation, actually. It gets you in the ballpark. I mean, I can't tell you to the dollar what they're making, but I can tell you in the ballpark gross revenue for whatever industry based on your staffing and your costs. Future plans. So, where do you see yourself in 3 years? During the next 1 through 3 years, do you have any plans in the following areas so they can understand where people are putting their money or what they're investing in from an industry standpoint? Community services. They'll rate your community services, what they use and how often they use it, and what they like or dislike. That'll give you an idea as to what part of your municipality maybe you need to improve, or this is where you get red flags from. Entrepreneurship support. I can tell you the only person that does entrepreneurship support in High Prairie is Community Futures. right? The banks do a little bit, but they're constrained from their corporate. They can only provide so much information, and then they get into a little bit of a liability concern, right? ATB is probably the only one that steps a little bit outside that now. BDC does too, but they're Grand Prairie, right? So there's no face to talk to here for BDC. If you want to talk to BDC, you got to drive for Grand Prairie. Or you can do it online and that kind of stuff, right? Or if you have millions, then they'll come here for you, right? But if you're in the 150 category, yeah, you're going to Grand Prairie. So where do you recruit from? How many vacancies? You know, where do you get courses from? The market conditions. What do they see as the holes that need to be filled? You know, what isn't provided locally that could be provided. This provides you with a list of, and it's something we provide to our clients when they come and ask, you know, what kind of business should I start? We normally provide them with like a little bit of a list that says, you know, on average in our area, tourism is a huge thing that's just not filled very well. It's filled well on the camping side of thing, but any kind of tourist service, so, you know, boats, skidoos, touring, hunting guides, you can find them for sure, but is it well advertised? No. So having that kind of information can be important for a council, because then you can say, okay, well, we need to, you know, structure our ECDEV around tourism instead this year, or structure ECDEV around heavy oil because it's coming back, or so on and so forth. And there's a lot of questions on market conditions, but I won't read them all to you because you're smart people and you probably read it before. So that's the project in a whole. So what I'm asking for is $17,500 to be approved. You don't have to tell me now because you can't tell me now. But in the next little while, if you could please send me a letter as to whether or not it has been approved, that would be appreciated. And like I said, the County Big Lakes is definitely on board if you guys are on board. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't know if they'll do it without you. I haven't really shook that tree quite yet until I know whether or not you guys want to be part of it. Questions?
I was wondering, when you said you were doing the database in Excel, why you were doing it in Excel and not in Access, which is another Office Suite program specifically as a database?
Yeah, so we'll probably do it in Excel because Excel is easier for data entry. And then we'll transfer that data to Microsoft Access for searchability.
Thank you.
Councillor Rose?
When you're talking about employing two positions, 2.5 positions, is that what you're looking at, Chris?
So
and one in Slave Lake and one in High Prairie?
We currently have a full-time position right now, which is our CEC, our Community Engagement Coordinator. They get different names all over. So we have a full-time staff member that does things like our census. She's worked on our feasibility studies, so she's already employed with us. So part of this cost is to keep that position running. She'll do the actual data entry, and then we'll do a part-time, probably a 0.5 or a 3-day-a-week kind of gig here, and they'll collect the actual data. They'll do those face-to-face conversations, because you should have the same person doing those conversations every single time. You don't want to switch between two different people, because you want the question asked for data validity. You want the question asked the same way each time, so you get consistency in the answers. Yeah.
Just one more question. You ran this out of Slave Lake?
Oh, we run this yet?
Yeah.
No, we haven't run a business visitation program yet. We did, for Slave Lake, we did a consulting on their landfill. So, you know, how to make the landfill more profitable. That's what we've done for them. MD 124 in town of Slave Lake because they share the landfill, but yeah.
Okay. Well, any other questions?
Yeah, just when have your branch of Community Futures ran this business visitation anywhere else?
Oh yeah, so each Community Futures though, so the Community Futures for Lesser Slave Lake is their own corporation. But yeah, so it's been run in Grand Prairie, it's been run in Edson and Hinton, it's been run in the Tuatna region, it's been run in, I want to say Sexsmith. Oh, that's right. Because I don't think that's BC, I think that's Alberta. It's been run in 2 projects in BC. It's been run multiple times. Okay. I stole this and then switched it for us, right? I don't like to reinvent things if you don't have to. So this is a proven project that runs well and councils get good information out of it. You can talk to Grand Prairie Council if you want, or I can provide you with contact information for that if you have some questions around how successful it was.
All right.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Robley, for spending the time here.
Oh, thanks for your time,
Appreciate
as always. Listen to a redhead talk is always fun, right? Never know what he's going to say. It was, yeah. At least it's not kick a redhead day. I didn't enjoy that day. That was not a good day. So, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, for those that were wondering about the length of time, Mr. Robley was allocated a half an hour for his presentation, and the LSLEA was allocated 15 minutes, but we only need 6, so we gave our time up, which is no problem. So all LSLEA has is a small video regarding the broadband project that they have been working on, and it's a 6-minute video produced by Northern Alberta Development Corporation, NADC, and you can just sit back and enjoy it.
Where's the popcorn? No popcorn?
No popcorn.
I've got pop and cookies.
So make it go. Make it go. No speakers?
Let's advertise it. You can bring it here and we can put it. Like so.
Alberta's ongoing work to build a prosperous, diversified economy. Through the MLA lead and 9 appointed members, the Council assists the provincial government to plan for the future of Alberta's North and its people. The Council and staff strategically engage with Northern industry, communities, and residents to assist in the creation of actionable strategies and recommendations for capitalizing on the North's vast potential. The expertise of the branch in facilitating partnerships, gathering input, and providing evidence-based recommendations is crucial in advancing cross-ministry policy objectives and ensuring the government is better positioned to support Northern families and communities. Among the many projects and priorities in focus, the NADC is currently partnering with the Regional Development Branch of the Ministry of Economic Development, Trade, and the 5 Northern Regional Economic Development Alliances to identify the current state of broadband within the NADC region. Broadband, the speed by which data is transmitted over the internet, is essential to supporting positive outcomes for our northern communities. Let me have one of the NADC team explain this in more detail for you.
Thanks, Janice. As mentioned before, access to broadband is critical to the development of any community. Internet access is no longer a luxury, but has become a necessity for business, education, and personal use. According to the 2013 Northern Broadband Standard, Canadians are becoming more reliant on information technology in every aspect of their lives, meaning that every Canadian requires access to reliable, affordable information communication technology, also known as ICT, in order to fully engage in 21st century opportunities. So as you can see, wait, hold on, I'm getting a Skype call here. Hey there! I heard through the grapevine that NADC is working on an important initiative regarding broadband. As a member of a Northern Alberta community, I'm really eager to learn more, and I thought I would check in on you to it looks like we lost her there. As I was saying, as technology evolves, the North struggles to keep pace with increasing ICT service gaps between urban centers and rural communities, especially in the North. The current broadband standard here in Northern Alberta is directly impacting the potential for Northern development, not to mention affecting Northern residents, governments, and businesses. I had better get that.
Hi again. That Wi-Fi signal just kept dropping, so I figured I would give you a call instead on the phone. I can't wait for these connectivity issues to be resolved, and I hope it's soon.
Well, I have some news that might cheer you up. Right now, there is growing recognition that options to advanced telecommunications are best pursued in a collaborative manner. When it comes to ICT, our efforts here at home carry over and affect neighboring communities.
I get it. If we have a collaborative approach to current broadband issues, we can strengthen our outcomes, and there will be opportunities for us and the surrounding rural and remote communities that may not otherwise exist.
Exactly. In order to do just that, the Northern Broadband Preparedness Project was created by the NADC, Economic Development and Trade, and the Northern Alberta Regional Economic Development Alliances, the Northeast Alberta Information Hub, the Lesser Slave Lake Economic Alliance, the Peace Region Economic Development Alliance, the Regional Economic Development Initiative, the Grizzly Regional Economic Alliance Society. The Northern Alberta Broadband Preparedness Project will develop an inventory of the regional broadband system, including existing and planned broadband civil infrastructure, service footprints, and service levels. Here, let me try to call you again on Skype. Ugh, I'm sorry, it just won't connect and keeps dropping the call.
Your attempt to call me isn't even coming up on my computer. I guess we'll have to keep talking about it on the phone for now. Let's talk more about this project. With 2 failed Skype calls under our belts today, I'm getting even more eager to hear about this new broadband initiative. It sounds like quite the project. Who's willing to take all this on?
This project will be completed by Taylor Warwick Consulting and navigated by a steering committee comprised of the project partners who will contribute to and guide the work. Following this project, the Northern Alberta REITAs and other northern communities will be able to undertake regional broadband planning and to prepare them to identify the next steps to assess the feasibility of regional broadband utility development or identify means to enhance telecommunications industry investment strategies.
This really is a great idea. For the northern REITAs, the use of this regional lens can inform and support municipal strategies that might identify benefits and advantages from collective planning, with a potential to identify new partnerships for regional infrastructure.
Exactly. To make sure that we are providing that lens as accurately as possible, stakeholder engagement will be a significant part of the project process. We are going to bring together various key stakeholders representing communities who are encompassed by this project by hosting 15 stakeholder engagement sessions across the region. These engagement sessions will solicit input from represented communities with respect to broadband and provide background contextual and landscape materials regarding broadband. They will also provide an overview of the industries in their area and how broadband infrastructure can be considered and deployed, as well as how it can be provided as a utility for current and future telecom providers. Finally, we hope to solicit input from these stakeholders about where they feel their communities will need to be in 3, 5, and 10 years, and what options they might wish to explore in order to meet these milestones.
Wow, this sounds great. After the results are in, how can we go about getting more information on implementing these strategies?
That's where our workshop will come in. After the results from the stakeholder engagement have been compiled, a one-day workshop will be held with members from across the region. This way, there can be discussion at both the regional and sub-regional levels on potential strategies to undertake and do-it-yourself options for the community, and regional preferences related to ownership, business models, and partnership arrangements that could be developed to support or implement broadband strategies of choice.
That's fantastic. When will it be finished?
The project will be completed in March 2017 and will provide an assessment for the NADC region as a whole, as well as a sub-region assessment for each Northern Alberta REITA. In the spring of 2017, each Northern Alberta REITA will host a final deliverables seminar to present the final product in their region.
This is so exciting. I can't wait to see what happens as the project progresses.
So am I. As communities are provided with the tools to move forward and keep pace with the rest of the country and the rest of the world, they can only become stronger.
And the handout I gave you was the invitation to the engagement consultation strategy on November the 23rd. So the November 22nd council meeting, it'll be an agenda item. But if you're interested in coming, mark that date, that's November 23rd. Keep it available, or you can even register on Eventbrite. And I think that's where the invitation talks about registering on Eventbrite. So, you have any other questions on it? It's the beginning of an actual plan to see where we are now with broadband and where we want to be, and then the consultant will provide the steps, and they will be not necessarily government. It could be a mix of municipal, private enterprise, the existing internet service providers, the ISPs that are already in existence, and perhaps some new digs for fiber or whatever. So in Northern Alberta, it's not going to be straightforward for us to receive fiber in our communities. It's going to be collaborative, consultative, and it's going to require partnerships with a lot of the communities as to how we're going to get this to move forward. Questions?
Yeah, I guess two comments. One is maybe you could share the link for this, because there's nothing about how to attend this event like on here, like where you would go to register.
I'll be sending out invitations from Eventbrite. They have an invitation where you email everybody the link to it.
Yeah, and the second thing is, their timing isn't bad, like in March of 2017. I'm still, for me, this is good, but I'd like to know where they're coming, because we also have that, the fiber town with Axia and how that's gonna fit in and where they're sitting in this, but I'd like to find out their perspective on what they think of Axia and all of these things too, so.
Yeah,
Be aware we can get that information.
he will, because this gentleman has already done a project in Alberta Southwest, and I think this is the second. Ours, I think, is the third one that he's done. So he's gotten better at it each time, as to making it very, very focused on what we need for information and the types of questions, and he's learned lots about the different methods of delivery. So.
Awesome.
Linda, who is he?
Craig Dobson. He
And
is principal of Taylor Chadwick, which is the consulting firm.
And is this the fellow that is doing the meetings in Slave Lake? Because Slave Lake, are they part of any of those REDIS or those alliances?
NADC is handling any communities that are not part of any REDIS, and Slave Lake, town of Slave Lake and Lesser Slave River, as well as the town of Athabasca, and I believe there are some other ones, Grand Cache. I'd have to look at the list, but there are communities that are not members of REDIS, and those communities, NADC is setting up the consultations. So but anybody is allowed to attend any consultations. So ours, November 21st is in Wabasca, November 22nd is Slave Lake, and November 23rd is High Prairie. There's also Grimshaw, which is Preda, and I believe that's where Big Lakes County will go, because the 23rd is their council meeting, so they're not available at this one. But I may try to get the consultant, Craig Dobson, to go to their council meeting for an hour, and I don't know. Preda is in Grimshaw and Grand Prairie, and there's one in High Level. So they're coming together fast. He wants most of these done before Christmas, so he's really organizing this.
Yeah, no, it's awesome to have that umbrella with NADC working with the whole north, because I mean right now there's lots of groundwork that needs to be laid no matter which direction a person goes. So
Exactly.
we need to find the answers, so we know what's the best answers for the community, but we need to be on board somewhere, right? Because we're those dropped calls, right? Or those dropped FaceTimes, and going forward it's just going to get worse.
Okay, so there you are. Mark your calendar.
Yeah. Terry, did we get anything set up with Axia to where they were going to come down and do a presentation, or we had asked them? Do you know anything about that? Like, we did that at one of our council meetings, right? To have them come down.
I believe they're at our next council meeting,
They're at our next one to.
or the one after. I'll have to double check on that.
Okay.
They're gonna let us know about December 13th.
Okay. So it's December 13th. They
So
might
far.
come. Okay.
All right then. So Chief.
Wakey, wakey.
Where are all the hats, eh?
I'll move that council receive the fire chief's September and October 2016 report for information.
Thank you. Do you want to go and highlight anything on the report first?
Not really, other than it's been really, the last 2 months have been really, really slow.
Good or bad?
That's good for the public, bad for us, I guess, but, well, in a way it's good for us, in another way it's bad for us. So, if we get more calls, it helps keep morale up, keeps the guys more interested. Unfortunately, it's not good for the public, so, has anybody got any questions about any of the calls?
Councillor Panasic?
Yeah, I had, I guess, a couple of questions, and one was about the train where you had to wait for 21 minutes there or something. Did you report that or get it through to CN? Because I know I had an issue, the same thing, but.
I didn't, no, I didn't. We've talked to them about it before, and they say it's because they're only allowed their 15-kilometer-an-hour speed limit. They can't go any faster. And as it turned out, I was getting to the fire, and I was like, I don't know, like maybe 100 meters. The engine was 100 meters from the intersection before I got to the intersection, and I just couldn't go across because he was too close and he couldn't get stopped in time. If he could have, I don't know if he would have anyway. But, and it's very frustrating because you could see the fire burning out in the field, and you can't do anything because the train is there. And in the meantime, you see the farmer tearing into the yard, and he jumped in his tractor, and fortunately his disc was already hooked to the tractor, so he just, or cultivator I guess it was, and he just went out in the field and started going around the fire. And so while we're sitting there watching in between the cars, we're watching to see what's happening, he's putting the fire out. So, but whether it would help to talk to CN or not, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, and I can't remember the number or the time, but they can't block an intersection for more than X amount of minutes. And I don't think it's 21 minutes. I know it's less than that.
yeah, it seems to me it's supposed to be less than that, but
And I can't remember, but I'm just thinking that we need to report those things as often as we can, because I got stuck trying to come back, from south into town at the railway track, and it was over 20 minutes there
Right,
too.
yeah.
And I know it was too long, and I think it was Brian, and he was going to report it, or somebody was going to report it, but I think we should be letting them know in our region that we notice when these things happen, and at least keep reporting them, because I don't think they're even trying to get under that time limit. Like, I know they have speed limits, but they must shorten their cars, the number
well,
of
yeah,
cars
they have to do something because, I mean, if it was a matter of life and death, it could have been somebody's life.
Yeah.
Fortunately, this turned out okay because it happened to be close enough to the farmer's residence that he could get his own equipment and put it out. But I mean, if it would have been out in the middle of nowhere, it could have been a big fire by the time we got there. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Could you find out what the time,
I could check with you.
and then acting CEO can email us just for our information. 15? I'm not sure what it is, but I know that those trains are getting longer and longer and longer.
Getting longer and going slower. So.
Yeah, and we may want to watch when they come through once in a while and just time them, like we have a bylaw officer, they can just click and know.
Councillor Corley?
Actually, with the update to the rail that they've been doing all summer, the train speed is supposed to increase by quite a bit. When I say quite a bit, it's going to be up probably up to close to 30 kilometer an hour.
That's if we can keep the semis off the tracks.
Well, that helps too, Aiken. I wasn't going to say anything, but
I had one other question, and that Ken, I noticed the other call that you had here was about going out to a prescribed, or a burn that they had a permit for through the county.
Right,
Is
yeah.
there no coordination between permits that they have so that you're not called out there, or does this happen often? Because to me, you would think that if they get a permit, you should be notified.
They should have notified us, but I don't know what happened, but they didn't. So I did speak to them, and they said they're going to try and make sure that they let us know next time they get a permit, so.
Oh, okay, so they normally do tell us?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so this was just one that fell through the cracks as
Yeah.
opposed to a bigger issue. Okay.
Any other questions? Councillor Gilroy?
I just found it kind of interesting in that on your September 24th call, where there were 2 trailers with the same number on it in the same trailer court.
Yes.
Is that, it just sounds unusual that they shouldn't have been able to at least, especially if there's a possible fires and that, they wouldn't have a different number. Is there anything that we can do?
I don't know. That's the guy that owns the trailer court, I guess. That's his numbering system. I don't know how he's got that numbered. That's got nothing to do with the town because it's private, a private development, so. But there was 2 trailers with the same number, so we went to one. There was nothing. We returned back to the hall, and then we get the second call. So we go back out there to the other trailer with the same number, and so.
Well, he could send a letter to the property owner and bring it to his attention that he has a numbering system that is causing problems with our fire department.
Well, my concern would be that if it would have been a life and death situation, they've gone there, they've come back, and they've gone there again, and that's a security risk.
Well, it's not only the fire, it could be the EMT or the police.
Yeah,
So
could be
any of the
one,
public service responders.
Do you want me to write a letter to him, or?
Administration? Between the 2 of you, you can
Okay.
coordinate, please.
Okay.
Any other questions? And there's nothing else you want to bring to our attention? How is the response to the passes, the aquatic passes?
Everybody was happy. They're quite impressed. So what we're doing now, we're just in the process of getting new ID cards made up. So I'm just not quite sure how we're going to do it yet, but we'll have ID cards with photo ID on them. And I guess we can use those for when they show up at the swimming pool, if they have a card with their picture on it.
So have you given thought as to how families will get in without the person with the photo ID in attendance?
I don't really know yet.
Then you'll be coordinating.
It'll be, they'll have to have, I don't know whether we should have them call in and verify that his family is going in. I'm not sure just how we're going to do it yet, so.
Okay. Well, punch passes are always an option, but
Okay.
I could just take it up with the acting CAO. She's got so much time.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? No? Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you.
All in favor of receiving for information? It's carried. Next item, the Councillor Long.
Council approved the minutes from the October 25th, 2016 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any errors or omissions? Councillor Gilroy?
Page 33 under financial fair, which is the very last item on that particular page.
That's a different meeting.
Oops. Too many meetings.
It's 27.
know what I'm going to say next time anyway.
Okay, so nothing on this meeting that ends on page 30. Okay. All in favor? Motion is carried. Next motion. Councillor Portley.
The
that council approve the minutes from the October 27th, 2016 special meeting as presented.
And did you want to make the amendment too, or do you know what it is? No. Okay, Councillor Gilroy?
Under financial fair, I believe it was the FCSS financial fair, not Big Lakes financial fair. Councillor Rose, am I correct in that? Was
Yeah, it
Big
was the
Lakes or
FCSS.
FCS? Yeah.
So we'll make that adjustment. Any other errors or omissions? You'll accept that as an amended minutes? All in favor, as amended? Carried. I didn't see your hand go up, Councillor Gilroy.
Oh, yes.
Next item is the treasurer's report. If we can get a motion, please. Councillor Rose?
Council received the 2016 Treasurer's Report as presented for information.
Dual role tonight.
Would you like to bring
That's you.
anything to our attention on this report?
Nope, this isn't the one that has a lot of stuff on it. The one for the first week of November had a lot, but this one here, there was nothing specific other than the workshop I attended. It was quite interesting, and I did pick up a few new things.
Any questions then on the treasurer's report? Seeing none, are all in favor? It's carried. Next item, National Addictions Week. Could I get a motion, please? Councillor Gilroy?
Okay, make a motion that council proclaim November 13th to the 20th of 2016 as National Addictions Awareness Week and direct administration to advertise on the electronic board, and that Mayor Cox or delegate be approved to attend the Office of Addiction and Mental Health Services on the date of November 15th, 2016 at 2 p.m.
Any discussion or comment? Councillor Panasic?
Yeah, the only issue that I had was, they want somebody to drop by their office. I think it's good to proclaim this of addictions, but to drop off the certificate and meet their staff, and then we're paying the mayor or one of the councillors to go there. It's a waste of $100 if we're paying the honorarium for that. So I wouldn't support it if we are paying an honorarium, like to drop it by. I'm in support of the first part of it, but not the second part.
Councillor Gilroy?
I'm open to an amendment where we drop the second part of that and just proclaim it as a National Awareness Week if that's the will of the council.
This one's tough because, as you know, I don't agree with motions that are asking people to do things and yet not allowing them to claim the expense or the honorarium or that is part of their job. In saying that, this would be, and I am available and I have talked to them, and I would be going and I would not be charging the honorarium, because I consider these types of things part of the honorarium portion, which is the $400. But I still don't agree with putting that into a motion where you are asking someone to go and do something and yet not allowing them to decide whether they want to claim or not. So this one, like I said, is tough. So I think we struggle with this lots, and I think it's not something that we should be allowing. We should not be encouraging motions that deny the intent of the person's actions. So.
Well, if that's the case, then we could just, like Councillor Gilroy suggested, remove the second part of that, and if you chose to take it down there, then you choose to.
Except that, and again, you're asking the mayor to act on behalf of the town without well, you're not asking the mayor to act on behalf of the town. You're just saying, well, if you decide to go and act on behalf of the town, go ahead. So you either have to choose, yes, mayor, go and act on behalf of the town and do the proclamation signing. And it's not just in their office, actually, it is in their, they have a ceremony, because I did this last year. I don't know, I need some more discussion on this. Councillor Long?
Everybody knows that I choose not to, quite often, more often than not, to fill out my requisitions and stipends and those types of things. But that being said, that's not a common practice, and is one that I choose through my own volition. When we make a motion, I don't understand why we would focus on whether or not the mayor or councillor who's doing the job, and it's part of the job, then to make it so that that person can go, but you don't get compensated for your time off work. When we look at our budget and we see how much money we've spent, I think I just don't understand the logic of saying, okay, this time you can't get paid, but this time we will get paid. If it's the job of council, job of the mayor, job of whomever, if they choose to put in for that time, so be it. It's their right, and it's our procedural bylaw right. It's part of the job. And so I just see it as not hypocritical. That's too harsh. I'm just saying that I've taken the initiative to be frugal time and time and time and time again. And I get told I'm undervaluing, and I shouldn't do it because it undervalues the positions of this council and the job of our as role of council. And then for something like this, then all of a sudden it has to have the stipulation of. Leave it up to the councillor or to the mayor's decision as to whether or not they want to build a town. If it's part of the job and it's required of us to be there, I just find it a tad frivolous for something that's going to take literally half an hour, and will easily spend thousands of dollars on trips and things.
Yeah, just in response, I agree with you that we should. I mean, if we approve to do this, then they could make it up to their discretion. But what I'm saying is I wouldn't approve it for $100 for half an hour to go stop by and give them the certificate and say, hi, you know, here's your staff. To me, that is not being very responsible with the taxpayers' dollars. And that's part of what we have to do too. Even though it's only $100, we still have to watch the smaller amounts, right? And
absolutely,
we can get chewed up if we're allowing, you know, $100 for going for a short little bit just to drop off a certificate at their office. That's not frugal. That's why I'm saying I'm all in favor of this, but I am not in favor of the other. So I would, for me, it's better to take it out. And then there's not a question of whether it should be in there.
Or we leave it to the discretion of the elected official who is elected by the people. And then let the people say, really? You just got $100 for doing 10 minutes work?
Councillor Rose?
I think we're kind of getting confused too with whether we're approving the activity, because we're regularly defeating motions where we're asked to do things. The FCSS asked us to go to, invited council to a financial fair. The Little Smoky Ski Hill invited us to the strategic planning session. We're invited to these things and we defeat these motions, and we don't allow council to be represented there, right? Same sort of thing here. All he's saying is that I don't think it's a good idea to pay someone to go and deliver a check, but we can still support the proclamation. So I don't think he's saying it's or like, it is almost a divided thing, maybe it should have been done into, it's just like we said, we're not gonna approve all of council to go to those other two events, right? Or those other two invites that were invited by our other communities or our community.
So let's go back to the original motion, and I'm not sure if there was an amendment or not, but there was no amendment. Okay, Councillor Gilroy?
I was actually going to address that possibility amendment that I just talked about after hearing if Councillor Courtly had anything to say.
Councillor Courtly?
I think it's up to them. I think it should be left in, and if the person deems that they want to be paid to do it, I guess they can bill it. If they deem that they are doing it on their goodwill, that's fine. I'm good with that, as long as it gets done, because it's important.
Okay. Any other comments, Councillor Gilroy?
So in answering my original one saying that I would amend it if it was the will of the council, I'm getting the idea that I should not carry that second amendment, so just put it at the original motion.
Okay. Original motion. Could you read back the original motion, please?
That council proclaim November 13th to 20th, 2016 National Addictions Awareness Week and directs administration to advertise on the electronic board, and that Mayor Cox or delegate be approved to attend the Office of Addiction and Mental Health Services on the date of November 15th, 2016 at 2 p.m.
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. 36, did we get a motion on the Elders Banquet? Councillor Rose.
The council give a financial donation in the amount of $500 to be taken from that line item to the High Prairie Friendship Center for the 36th anniversary banquet honoring the town of High Prairie and surrounding area elders, being held on December the 10th, 2016.
Could we have the administration speak, please?
The first thing I'd like to do is change the actual account number. The number that was put in there was the council's account number for donations. However, this is an elder banquet and it qualifies under FCSS funding. And so we usually put it under FCSS funding.
So change the number to read the right one. Is there any other questions, discussion, item? All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item is the sponsorship request for Triangle, the Pioneer Fishermen's Association. Could I have a motion, Councillor Rose?
The council approve an in-kind donation of loader and town employee to run the equipment.
Councillor Gilroy?
I do have a concern with this because of what is happening next year. The only one I have concern with is the Canada Day celebration, because the committee stuck by this council has got a major project, Canada Day, as part of our 150th birthday. And as much as I'd like to support them, we've been asked to really focus upon High Prairie for that particular day. For the other two events, I'm fine, but as long as it doesn't take away from all the planning and all the preparation that the committee is doing for Canada Day in our own town, that's my only concern.
Did you want to amend it to say except for Canada Day?
Well, it's just all I put in the motion was to use the equipment of the town for in-kind.
If it is available then?
If it's available for, yeah, we could amend it to be if it's available.
Would that be satisfactory?
I'm not looking at the sponsorship part of it in that motion, so, I mean, this is if council would like to change it then.
As I said, I just wanted to point out the fact that
Yeah.
it is technically not in our town, it's in the county. And what we were given on our subcommittee was the priority to focus on our town especially for Canada Day. And I want to make sure that the people realize that we have something special happening and we're working very hard on it. Right, Michael and Debbie?
I think actually this is, if you read up there, they did not take us up on the offer due to the fact they have had enough equipment and enough volunteers. I doubt if they'll take us up again on the offer. because they do have so much of their own volunteer and equipment. And so our offer is a feel-good offer that probably won't amount to an actual action. But I think we do have to make the effort to be neighborly. Councillor Panasic?
I think the other thing that we can offer them is to do the promotions and advertising on our electronic sign and the other, I think that's the other in-kind stuff that we can contribute to that quite easily is, and we should let them know. Just shaking her head no.
Whenever we allow certain groups to advertise certain things, you have to be very, very careful so that you don't set precedents, because it's the same as hanging up posters. People bring it here and they think they can put up posters all over the town office, and it's something that's never allowed at most municipalities. So same with the electronic board, it has to be very careful. Had to be, I don't know what criteria was set up. There was supposed to have been criteria set up as to what was and wasn't allowed. And I'm not sure if this fits the criteria or not.
So fun.
Yeah. But I mean, we've passed several motions for other organizations that say that we will support you with being able to advertise your event on our board. So I think it's just saying that, yeah, we will help and we'll promote and we support this, but we're not throwing money at it.
Okay. So do we want an amendment?
Councillor Gilroy?
Sorry, I just wondering, did we not advertise some of these events last year?
Yes, we.
So we technically have set a precedence that that would sort of go against that a little bit. So there is a precedence for this.
Okay, Councillor Rose?
I do agree that there should be some policy in place, because it will eventually get very difficult to say yes and no, and there'll be for profits versus nonprofits and things like that. So far, it's been sort of the same groups that have been coming forward and that we've been approving to advertise. But I would be open to amending the motion to also include advertising on our social media and electronic sign.
We do have criteria. You, in your spare time, you can look it up.
I know that had been discussed when the sign first went up 6 years ago.
Yeah, there is criteria. Okay, so in-kind will be equipment loader offer and also advertising on social media and the electronic sign. All in favor? It's passed. And the next one is a special meeting. Councillor Gilroy?
I make a motion that council call a special meeting to be held on November 14th, 2016 at 7 p.m. in council chambers to review the museum, library, and recreation budgets, if they're there. Are they?
Recreation is already in. I'm not sure about museum and library, but they'll be notified.
They have been already.
Good. So mark your calendars, and we were told this to mark them last week, so you should have it already in your calendar.
Yeah, this is just for approval.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Financial support, Councillor Panasic.
That council received the financial support donation request application from the District of Smoky River, number 130, for information.
Comments on this, Councillor Rose? I'll start with you.
I think that they may have misunderstood what the town actually has. I think Brian did try to help provide them the grant opportunity to submit something, but I mean, we've turned down a $5,000 request for ongoing support because we felt we couldn't afford that, and now the grant application comes in and they're asking for $83,000 or whatever we're willing to donate. So I think there must have been some sort of miscommunication, because I know when I spoke to the Mayor of Flair, she thought that there was a grant through recreation. Like it was, I think she thought she was applying for something different. And I think Brian was maybe just trying to be helpful and offering her, our grant deadline, and that there maybe is another way to put forward their request. But yeah, we said no because we couldn't afford $5,000. I don't think we can afford $83,000.
Councillor Long?
Enough said.
Okay. Councillor Panasic?
Yeah, I love having the ski hill in the region. I think it's good for our region. I mean, we do have people from the town, we know people from the county use it. It's a great resource for our community. It makes our place a better place to live. But I also get the other side of it that, I mean, we're not gonna donate 83,000 to it. And when we turned down the 5,000 for our two new counselors, part of the rationale was that, we run a swimming pool at a deficit every year. And we don't ask the other communities to help match that deficit. So that was sort of the rationale at the time. So definitely can't afford this much money, but so.
Councillor Corley?
Yeah, no. Yeah, I understand. I totally agree. I think it was a misunderstanding.
Councillor Gilroy?
I guess I find it rather interesting that it says they've run a deficit for the last 3 years, according to their stats here, and yet they're increasing their budget. And the only thing that we'd be doing would be actually, apparently the rest of it's covered by Smoky, Municipal District of Smoky River, anything that we don't get. So we're actually covering them on it. As much as it's a nice place, if they're not making as much, I would suggest that they reevaluate what the charges are. I mean, if they're getting schools and things like that, I don't know what the schools pay, but they've definitely got E.W. Pratt and the elementary school talking about it. So maybe they need to be charging a little more to the school board or to some of these other places to increase their revenue. But I don't think we can afford the extra 5,000 with all the other commitments we're making.
Actually, this is the first time I have seen letters of support from our schools. And I didn't realize that the schools used it as much as they did. Although I knew that they were going out there. For the schools actually to write a letter of support, I'm thinking that this is something that our community does use. I know we have money available now FCSS wouldn't cover this, would it, or? I'm asking.
It doesn't usually cover recreation. It doesn't cover equipment or any of that stuff. I don't think it covers recreation either, no.
Okay. I'm not in favor, of course, of the 83,000, but I'm thinking that if they were to come back and ask for the 5,000, not on a contract, but as a one-time grant, I would be interested in seeing this as an agenda item again.
They did actually say, or whatever we wanted to, right here. Please note that any contribution would be appreciated. Last line of paragraph 2.
Okay.
And just further to that, I didn't support us pulling away from the contract in the first place. I did think that we should continue to contribute the 5,000. I knew it was a small amount of money, but I did see that it was a really divided issue at the time, and I don't think we realized the numbers and the usage. And since then, just we'll mention again that we are the #1 user of this facility when you look at municipalities. And if you look at this report we got from our planners, and it says, what do I like about the town? And in the winter, in the top 3, access to Ski Hill is right in there. And just so, just sort of that warm, fuzzy sort of feel-good thing about High Prairie, when people come to the area, and we're often seeing new people that come into the area and what actually keeps them here or allows them to choose High Prairie, it is often things like the access to the ski hill, the swimming pool, now even the skate park. Those are things that actually attract and keep people in our area. So I would be...
Are you open to an amendment?
I'd be open to an amendment to getting back to where we were before, which I approved at the time.
So I'm not sure if the
that would be the $5,000.
Yeah, but yours is just to receive 4.
Well, actually, it's actually Councillor Panasik.
It would have to be defeated.
Yeah, it's Councillor Panasik's.
Okay. All right then. So we've all gone around. We've had our our say. The motion is, could you read it back, please?
Motion was for information.
For information? All those in favor of information? Receive for
No, sorry.
information? Could you,
Oh, no, it should be defeated.
It would have to be defeated to make it.
Approved, then we're only receiving it for information.
I'm thinking that it should come back as a separate agenda item at the next meeting. So, receive it for information and,
Or I could amend my motion and go for $5,000. It's another option, because I am in favor of supporting the ski hill also. So that's
if we, do you want to withdraw your motion? Let's
Yeah,
put it that
I'll
way.
withdraw it.
All right. And could you then, that motion is now withdrawn.
Yeah.
Please feel free to make,
That council approve financial support in the amount of $5,000 to the municipal district of Smoky River for the Smoky River ski area in 2016.
That should be 2017.
2017? I'd like to speak in support of that because this is only a one-time. The last set that we went through, it was a 3-year contract. So this is 2017, 2018, this will come up again. The councillors then would have the opportunity to decide whether they want to go forward with it. Is there any other? Councillor Law?
So we have 3 individuals right off the top saying it's a great idea and we should give them $5,000. So my question to the 3 so far, I know we have 2 more that still haven't talked on it. Where do we get the money? Where do we have an extra $5,000 kicking around to invest in a venture that's well outside of our town limits?
I can actually answer that. The councillor grants, that only added up to 35,000? 30,000?
There's still money left in it, but they've already been paid for 2016 out of that money, that 5,000, so this would be for next year's. And I believe you had changed the motion to drop it a little bit, but the budget is not finalized yet, so it can always be changed if necessary.
So it's already in the budget still?
It's still in the budget, yes, because you guys had not said yay or nay.
Councillor Gilroy, you had a comment?
Well, if I go with what I've been hearing among the community, and I find out things that attract people to our community, I'm hearing more on getting rid of the second ice pad and changing to an all year round one for other activities as opposed to a ski hill, because a lot of the community, newer community, yes, they're learning winter skills, but as one of the residents said, winter up here is 7 months long, and I'd like to have something to do inside. So that's why I'm a little concerned when it gets a little higher priority than I think.
Any other comments? Let's bring it to a vote then. Councillor Quarterly?
I think when we came into this as councillors, this was one of the first things that came across, and just recap again why everybody voted it out. Why did they not want that $5,000 into the ski hill den?
Councillor Panasic?
I think the rationale was like I had just explained, and maybe others can know, but we were, some of the same discussions were that, it is a great feature for our region. However, we are supporting a facility outside of our region that runs at a deficit, and they wanted all of the communities to chip in to help make this profitable and make it run. Now, nobody is chipping in to our swimming pool, which runs at a deficit, and people aren't, we're not asking the other communities to chip in on that. So what's the difference between our swimming pool, which the people of Falher come to, and the people of McLennan, and the ski hill? That's the difference. That was why it was defeated, I think.
It was defeated, but of course it was not unanimous. There were council members that did support it. Part of the rationale that they presented for supporting it was the fact that it is the only ski hill in our region. that the schools use it intensely, and that some of the occasionally they used to run buses. Now, whether they continued to run them or not, there was a Saturday bus that did take people from here out to the ski hill. But there was usage that we saw was of value, the ones that were in favor of this. Councillor Gilroy?
Personally, I'd like to have this table to find out what happened at their meeting. Remember, we were invited to a meeting. I don't know if any of the councillors went to that particular meeting that we approved they could go to, that was going to deal with all their financing of that. I believe this was received, right, this was received. Actually, I thought it said, okay, I thought I read in the minutes. Anyway, I guess the bottom line for me would be, they just had, this was received before their meeting, and I'd like to find out a little bit more about their strategic then, if it's somehow changed from this intent before we make the decision.
I'm just checking here, but I believe this letter was received after their meeting. I'm just double checking here the minutes, but I believe their meeting was already passed.
It was Monday, the strategic plan meeting.
Just this past Monday? Okay.
They probably don't have much for results.
Okay. Councillor Rose?
I just think that the investment amount compared to what it costs them to operate is very, very small. So it's probably not going to make or break the ski hill. It just goes to, just like sending our peace officers and an agreement to work together with Flair and Smoky River County, or is to build working relationships and to share services, to collaborate. It's all part of a bigger picture, so we can offer more we can share services with more people in our area. So the ski hill isn't in our county. It's never going to be in our area. But we can say that we can send people to that ski hill. We can advertise. We can help them promote it, and we can keep a ski hill in our area. The $5,000 I think isn't probably going to make or break them, but it does show them some support.
All right, let's call the vote. So read the motion again.
That council approve financial support in the amount of $5,000 to the municipal district of Smoky River number 130 for the Smoky River ski area for 2017.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried. 10-minute break.